Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. We just spent a couple sections going over game number 1 between Party and Sin. I'd like to remind you guys, because they're skipping game number 2 and 3, and game 1 was actually pretty awesome. I skipped over a couple details of it. All these VODs from the tournament are available at youtube.com/official MLGSC2. You can just search your old uploads there. You can look at playlists. There's playlists from MLG Dallas for rounds of 32, rounds of 16, round of 8, semifinals, etc. So a lot of great games there. Go ahead, check out the YouTube site. Also, all this stuff from our winter exhibition matches are up there on YouTube as well. And, of course, Rules of Engagement, top 5s, top 10s, comments of the day. So much content there. Just check it out. When the commercial's running, you can open YouTube and see if there's anything you might want to check out in the future. If you like the content, go ahead and throw us a subscribe. Going forward in game number 4, this is going to be on Newkirk City. At this point, Parting's up 2-1, and this is where he busts out his famous Soul Train build for those of you guys who have been following Parting winning every tournament against every Zerg player over the last 6 months using this build. Actually, not. I mean, he doesn't always use it, as we saw in game 1. But the Soul Train, of course, is referring to the 2-base Immortal build that is very common in PvZ and Wing Celebrity, and Parting especially is known for basically never losing with it because it's a very mechanical build, and Parting has probably the best mechanics of any Protoss out there currently. So, very, very, very strong build. 2-base Immortal push, Immortal Sentry push. And I'm going to call it the Soul Train 2.0 because there's a few tiny modifications. It's hard to swarm. Got that Mothership core out. A little bit different. Talk about that build. Then we'll talk about defending the Soul Train build, what Sen does to try to hold that off. Then we'll talk about something that's very important in StarCraft 2, and that's not just thinking about what you need right now and what's happening right now in the game, but similar to chess also, as in chess, you try to look ahead a few moves and see the way that the board could change. In StarCraft, try to look ahead a few minutes and realize how the game's going to change at a few minutes most likely, and taking steps to make sure you're in the best situation possible as that game progresses. So, getting into the game here, we're going to start at the 8-minute mark and look at Parting's setup, right? This is probably looking similar to you guys for the most part. Robotics here, gateways at the top so we can easily defend counterattack, even if he gives up the natural. He can hold the main ramp very easily. Well, of course, he kills the Zerg with his main army. So, very, very good setup by Parting. It's very standard for him to do this. It's kind of his trademark with this build. And the one thing I want to point out is notice something. Look at our Units tab. There's no Mothership core yet. And the key thing about this is with this build, you want to get to usually 44, 45 probes, and then you stop probes. And what Parting does is he says, okay, if I get the Mothership core earlier, before I met the ideal worker count right here, he sees at 45. If he was to get this Mothership core earlier, he would slow down, he would cut 2 probes out of the build earlier on. Those 2 probes wouldn't mind the resources, it would slow down his Immortal, probably not the Immortal production, it would slow down his Gateway production. So notice he gets the ideal number of probes and his Gateways before he starts that Mothership core. And that way this build isn't slowed down at all. It's still just as fast as it was in Wings of Liberty. The Mothership core comes out in time to go with the push. And, of course, the disadvantage of getting the core this late is that it won't have a ton of energy. But that's more than compensated by the fact it'll still have 1 time warp by the time you cross the map. And your push isn't slowed down at all. It's still very, very powerful. You still have all the sentries, the mortals, the 7 gates are just as fast. Everything still looks great. So, it's kind of Soul Train 2.0. Looks very, very similar to Soul Train 1.0. Adding in that core basically right in time to move out with it. So now we're going to go over to Sen's point of view. And basically, Sen, of course, has these Zerglings in front of his base, like every good Zerg is always going to have Zerglings scouting the map against Protoss. He sees the build coming out. If you look at Sen's point of view, this Zergling actually he had one right here that just died a second ago. In fact, I'll just back it up here. So he knows exactly what's going on. We can see this Zergling, actually it's running from the army. It saw that. He knows exactly what Parting's doing. Of course, Parting being famous for this build as well. And how is he going to defend it? Well, a lot of people are saying this build is extremely difficult to defend with the standard Zerg 3-base macro style because a lot of time in the past, Zergs would use roaches, try it from multiple angles, and try to eventually overwhelm the number of force fields Protoss would have to wear down that army. But going forward in Heart of the Swarm, not only, if you look at this army, does he have all the force fields. So not only do you have to kind of wait out the force fields before your roaches can close the distance, but he also has time warp available. And with those 2 factors, and of course the Mothership core dealing damage as well, it makes basically makes roaches as a defense to this build much, much, much weaker, right? So it's almost impossible to hold this actually with roaches. And when Parting does it with his like basically perfect micro and control with this build, not to mention he never misses a beat with the macro when he's executing this, you basically don't want to defend with roaches. So what does Sen do? He builds 4 spine crawlers, right? And the reason he's building spine crawlers is because he's trying to defend with Hydrotus. The reason why it's often very hard to defend this push with Hydrotus is because imagine if there's no spine crawlers there. This army just runs into this third base, and there's 10 Hydras in production. Once those are out, he can fight it. Like, the food counts are pretty even, right? So once all his units are produced, he may be able to beat this army. But right now, if that army got into this position here, got onto the creep deep, and it's only fighting like 8 Hydralists, and then Hydralists rallying out one at a time will get massacred. So you need a few spine crawlers if you're going to skip roaches to buy yourself time, right? And of course, you put them at the trope where the Protoss is most likely to attack through, where it's hard to defend because a few force fields can really shut you down. And then if the Protoss wants to attack from a different angle, of course, this is a subpar angle. Yes, there's no spine crawlers, so the Protoss wants to go from here, but there's a wide open area. So as we can see here, look at what Sen does. He runs his army over, and he gets this beautiful setup here. And if you can spread units out very far in a Great Arc, there's no way the Protoss can cut off a small section with force fields, right? Imagine if the force fields cut off this zone right here. In fact, let's actually... Imagine if the force fields were basically right around here, right? And they cut off this zone. If he cut off this section right here, all of a sudden what would happen is these units would come into play. And even if, let's move this up a tiny bit, and then it's actually... Let's fix this real quick. So if he wanted to attack from this angle and hit the force fields to cut off this section here, he'd then also have to do more force fields. Basically, to be able to hit these units, his army would have to occupy this zone right here, right? And if his army is occupying that zone, then he has to do more force fields to keep the rest army away, like basically right here. And now we're talking about a situation where, if we look at the range, these sentries here, they're not in range to click those force fields, so he actually can't do it. He can't segment off part of this army with force fields, given the exact positioning of his army. There's just no way to do it. So going forward, he can only use force fields defensively. As you can see there, of course, he's very fast with them and actually spreads them out to almost at the perfect ratio. And he's going to get a couple Zerglings here, which isn't bad. I mean, and actually might even get 1 or 2 Hydras. He got like 10 Zerglings there, which isn't bad, but it's still, I mean, pretty much as good as he could have gotten there. But anyway, he's forced back. So great defense. Uses spine crawlers to buy time to get a bunch of Hydralists out. Once you have the Hydralists out, the 2-base Immortal can't work. Because as you have a high Hydralist count, if you take good engagements, Sentry Immortal is about... Sentry Immortal Stalker, this army, actually he's high in Zealots too, which actually he's been adding lately. I'll get to that. But if we go back a little bit to like a 10, 20 mark, this type of army that he has, basically Sentries Immortals, trades even with Hydralists, right? So at this point, if he comes in quick when there's only a few Hydralists, he has a much larger army size, so he can crush it. As the game goes on, though, remember, look at the income. The Zerg's going to have higher income because they're on 3 bases. So as the game goes on, Hydralists will beat this push if you can hold the first little wave using those spine crawlers. Of course, Party, being a really good player, the instant he sees the spines and he backed up, right? If you look front, he sees the spines, backs up, he says, okay, I know exactly what's going on here because I'm partying and I'm, one of the world's best players. I know that this push isn't going to work. He already knows that. He says, if a Zerg builds spine crawlers and they're going Hydralists, I can't break them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to scare the Zerg, make him stand this low-tech composition, and I'll go for the Colossi, right? Once he gets a couple Colossi out, all of a sudden, you can't see the unit production tab right now, but he started that robot support bay right now at the 10-20 minute mark. So he hasn't even really done any trades yet, but he's already planning the transition. He's even adding in 2 more probes as well, so he knows the key battle won't happen for a while, so why not get a couple more probes to get a little more money before that time. Going for the Colossi, then once he comes back, Force Fields and Colossi will destroy the Hydralists, and he can win a couple minutes later down the road. We saw that with Minigun versus Idra. And as this game goes on, we'll actually see that in this game as well. So it's planning for the future, right? He knows exactly what he has to do. Go for the Colossi transition because the 2-base Immortal will not break a Spine Crawler Hydralist defense. Now, talking about what Sen does, right? So Partying in this game is already looking ahead, even at this point, right? He's already going for that robotic support bay right here. He knows exactly what's going on. Sen, on the other hand, he sees a 2-base Immortal. He has a Spine Cores. he should know the same thing. He should know that there's no way he's going to die to this 2-base Immortal with the units he has currently in production, right? What that means is that if he knows he won't die to this, what are a couple things he could die to? Well, there's no third, right? He has Zerglings here, and he knows that Partying cut probes at around 45, so even if he started third, it would take a little while to probe it up, and so forth. So Partying will basically either try to take a third, in which case Hydralisk can probably overwhelm it, or he'll go for Colossi, or he'll go for Colossi and a third at the same time and play defensively, right? Again, if you basically can know Partying has to go for Colossi from here or he'll lose. That's the only thing Partying can do. So what he should be doing, he should be right now, he should say, okay, my next 150 gas, right? I can just get another Spine Core with the minerals, I can get more Zerglings. As soon as I hit 150 gas right here, what I should do is I should get Infestation Pit. Now, why would he get Infestation Pit and not the Spire? Well, it's kind of what we talked about in the last situation where in Heart of the Swarm, Corruptors are, you should basically not get them against Protoss. Unless you're super desperate, you don't really need those Corruptors. And you know that the Protoss can't come back with Colossi until at least at 12:30, if not 13-minute mark. Which gives you about, you got basically at least roughly 3 minutes to find an answer to those Colossi as the game goes forward. And Vipers, the Infestation Pit is 65 seconds. The Hive is 100 seconds. Corruptors, Spire is 100 seconds. So the Vipers, from a position where you have no Infestation Pit, they take a full minute longer than Corruptors. But the nice thing is, once you get them, you can beat Colossi. If you go for Corruptors, you're probably still going to lose to the Colossi just because they're not that effective against them. So going forward here, right now is when you got to think a few minutes ahead. Think, how can I lose this game? I've held a 2-base Immortal. How can I lose this? It's got to be the Colossi. I should be going straight to Vipers because that's what beats Colossi. But unfortunately, what happens is you know, against Partying's 2-base Immortal, it can be scary, right? And he's just cranking out units, cranking out units, cranking out units. And so, you know, he's holding his push. He's forcing out force fields. Of course, Partying, of course, doesn't lose any units because he's Partying. But still, Sen's feeling good about this, and he's feeling good about this. But meanwhile, look at this. The support bay is almost done, and there still hasn't been a single transition from Sen yet. So if you're thinking a few minutes ahead, you've got to be in that zone where you have to start planning a transition, and there's still no transition now, right? And now the first Colossus is halfway done. Thermal Lance is on the way, and the only transition is a Roach Horn, which is nice to have some Roaches. They'll help buffer the Colossi, but the Roaches aren't gonna win the game for you, right? You're still gonna end up losing once a couple of Colossi come out. More Hydralisk, Hydra Speed, which is good. You know, forcing out some more force fields, although he's losing a lot of Zerglings as well. But he's pushing Partying back, and now comes the Spire. So this Spire has started 2 minutes after transition ideally would have started, which isn't good. And then, of course, as the game goes forward, once a couple Colossi join the field, I'm going to fast forward this just a bit. We're going to be at this position where there's two more Colossi in production. The attack's coming. And right now there's only one Colossi. Of course, Sen being a great player sets up a great flank here. But the thing to consider is, even though he has more economy, this stage in the game, the Protoss is at 160 food, right? So as a Zerg player, if you're on mostly these Hydralisks and Roaches, if we look at the army size, the Zerg army size right now is only 700 resources more than the Protoss. And as soon as these two Colossi come out, Colossi reach 500 resources, the Protoss army is actually going to be bigger than the Zerg army, and the Zerg army can't improve anymore. So this is a point where Sen's finding extremely uphill battle. His army quality is a lot lower. A great flank here, but remember, you're playing against Partying, so he's going to have picture-perfect force fields, microing the Colossus back, keeping most of the Hydralisk back, and the ones that are stuck in are going to be destroyed by his superior army count. And that's basically in a situation where it's very, very, very rough for Sen. As those Colossi enter the field, now all of a sudden we're at a situation where the army count, again, he's up by about 600, but Partying's army is much, much, much more cost efficient. And, you know, now just remaxing the Roaches, and I don't even have to finish the rest of this game. If you want to see the rest of this game being played out, go ahead, go youtube.com/official MLGSC2, and you can catch the whole VOD. But basically, then the story is Sentries, Immortals, Stalkers, and Colossi versus Roach Hydra with a few Corruptors is not going to go well for the Zerg. He's going to get rolled over by this follow-up attack from the 2 bases. And this was a game that actually a lot of people complained about. They're like, Sen held a 2-base Immortal, and then he lost anyway. And same thing with Idra versus Minigun that was on Whirlwind, right? And the key thing here is that If you hold a 2-base Immortal, it doesn't mean you automatically win the game, right? Because you're very far ahead, and you should win the game. You have an advantage, but you haven't typed in GG yet. Unless your opponent's typed in GG, you can still lose the game if you make enough mistakes. And very, very important to have that vision to know that you're going to hold the push before it happens and to start preparing for the next stage of the game. Right? You can't pat yourself in the back too hard. Progress the next stage of the game. At this point, at the 14:30 mark, remember, if he started Infestation Pit at 10:30, right, he would have had Hive Tech started at 11:35, and then, of course, by 13 minutes, Hive Tech would have been done. Or actually, sorry, but in 13:20, Hive Tech would have been done. 13:15, actually. And basically, by 14 minutes, Vipers would have been out. And then by 14:25, they easily would have had energy enough to pull up Ducks. And the first battle, the first engagement, he might not have had so much energy. But definitely going forward here, he would have the Vipers. And with the Roach Remax, he would easily hold this push. So, as a Zerg player, remember, if you think they might be going Colossi, go for the Viper Tech. The Hive isn't that big of an expense anyway. So it's going to cost you a couple Roaches, which aren't going to make the biggest difference defensively. But it could make the biggest difference if you don't have an answer for those Colossi when they hit the field and you're stuck making these really bad trades against a player like Party who has really, really great force fields. So that's going to wrap up Partying versus Sen game number 4. Of course, Party went on to win this game, winning the series 3-1. Take a short break and be on to the Q&A.